3, 2, 1. You ready?
You're listening to the Real Pineapple Podcast Network. Good evening, everybody. Thank you so much for listening. This is Hunter here. This is the Real Pineapple, and I'm here with, for honestly, you're becoming like one of my favorite viewers. Like, I'm so happy because I remember initially when we were talking about this, you're like, I don't know. I'm like, no, you'll be great at this. And I've gone through and listened to our Halloween review, and you were so good on that. So I'm so happy to have you here for this movie that, I'm not gonna lie, I liked as much, if not more, than Halloween. Allie. Hi, Allie.
Hi, everybody.
Yeah.
You know me, I love my horror, so I had to come do this one. I was a huge fan of Us. I thought it was great. It was super spooky, way scarier than Get Out, but definitely, like, just as good.
So I will say, as a black man, Get Out scared the shit
Fair! I'm white, so...
Get Out, I was sitting there, I'm like, oh, I primarily date white girls. It's a horrifying concept. It's like if you found out vanilla ice cream would, like, poison you.
Right?
Get Out's an amazing movie, and I think if there's and this isn't even a problem, and I think this is kind of unfair to frame it like that, but if there are people who went, I didn't like this as much as Get Out, this is a very different film from Get Out, and I think that people were expecting Get Out 2. I went into this, so I haven't watched Get Out in about a year, and I really didn't want to, because I didn't want Get Out to kind of frame my point of reference for this film. I wanted to give Us its own merit to kind of breathe on its own. And as far as a film, so we're going to have you on for these starting next week too. Twilight Zone comes out next Monday on CBS All Access, which is the only reason I really have CBS All Access.
It's the only reason I'm going to get it.
Yeah, I keep wanting to start Star Trek Discovery. I just haven't. I'm like, it's on my list of TV shows I need to get through, but Twilight Zone is my favorite TV show of all time. Like, Batman the Animated Series is right underneath it, but as far as something that really started my geekdom, it was Twilight Zone. I still remember seeing the monsters were doing Maple Street, and that when I was six, yeah. When I was 6, and Sci-Fi used to do those, Memorial Day marathons. I remember that just being such a mind fuck for me, going, oh my god, what the hell did I just watch? And that really starting my... I'm not a big horror guy, but as far as like thrillers and suspense, I really appreciate when it's done well. So when Get Out came out, it came from nowhere too. I remember I was like, Jordan Peele did this? That's amazing. Okay. So expectations were really high for this. You get, of course, Lupita Nyong'o, who I just have to say, and this might sound weird given the subject matter, she's never been sexier to me than she was in this movie. I don't know what it was, but I'm sitting there and I'm like, yeah, Black Panther, yeah, you're great, and I won't say she'll great in 12 Years a Slave, because that's subject matter.
That's a whole different thing.
Yeah, her getting whipped, woo, but seeing her in this, there's a reason why they put her first billing. Not just because she won the Oscar, but she has the most range of emotions she needs to show. And I don't know if there's another actress who could have done this as well. I know it's a very lofty claim, but Lupita was amazing in this. And I think everyone's great in this, but I think it will go Lupita and everyone else, kind of as far as billing. Yeah, kind of your thoughts going into this.
So I'm a huge horror person, so I, of course, was really excited on the first trailer, but I thought from the trailer immediately, this movie's going to be different and scarier than Get Out. Like, it's like a whole different level of horror. I don't do well with home invasion films. That's like the biggest fear
Really?
I have. Yes, like, I'm not afraid of, like, I've seen tons of horror movies, but The Strangers is, like, the only movie that I still still terrifies me. So I thought that this movie was going to be all home invasion. I was like, I'm going to go because I know it's going to be good, but I'm going to hate it because it's going to be so scary.
Yeah.
But I thought I also really love Winston Duke.
M'Baku, yeah. I love
M'Baku, and I love him in general, and he was so funny in this, and he was like he was like one of my favorite parts of it because he did that like parallel between being like a horror actor and a comedy actor at the same time. Like a lot of the like tension breaking moments come from him, which was great. But I do think that the best person in this was Lupita for sure. Like she had to play two characters, two very different characters.
And so what I will say too about this movie, first off, Elizabeth Moss, who's on The Handmaid's Tale, and of course you know her from Mad Men. You want to talk about an actress who, and this is going to sound weird to say, I think Lupita Nyong'o is not only underrated, but I think she's underappreciated, to be completely honest. I remember when, she was in Star Wars, she was in Force Awakens, that's right. And I'm blanking on the name of the character, but I remember black folks, and I think I can speak to that. If you first time listening, yes, I know I'm black, shocking from the voice, but Lupita's in Star Wars. I remember people going, "Oh my God, it's not her. She's just voicing a CGI character," and I went, "She's actually one of my favorite parts about this movie in the limited space she's had. I mean, between this and Black Panther and 12 Years a Slave." And then Us, I mean, she has really shown her range in that she's not a one trick pony, that she can really do so many different types of things. Winston Duke, of course, you know, M'Baku from Black Panther and in Infinity War. He's one of the few people in Wakanda left currently. But I thought Winston Duke, though, it doesn't sound weird to say, I think he's going to get Aaron Eckharted in this because Lupita Nyong'o, she's going to be Heath Ledger because everyone's going to be talking about Lupita. Rightfully so. Again, might I add, because she's so great in the role. But I think Winston Duke is going to be kind of like Aaron Eckhart was when Dark Knight came out. When people were like, dude, Heath Ledger, oh my fucking God, he's great. But I remember getting in arguments with people going, you know, Aaron Eckhart's just as good. He just... And also, you could make a case he's better because he has to show more range from Harvey Dent to Two-Face. That is not the case here, because Lupita is just, she's better. Let me just throw that out there. But Winston Duke, though, he goes from kind of carefree, dorky dad, admittedly. He is having a lot of fun, you can tell, with the comedic aspects. But when it has to go dark and he has to play his red doppelganger, first off, I will say, kind of with your fear of home invasions, my biggest fear, and this is so cheesy, but I don't care, one of my fears is me and my doppelganger. I'd imagine he's like a super... I'm trying to think of the opposite of me. So he's probably a super racist gangster who drives and likes to shoot guns, maybe? Like, because I hold a gun, I freak out. But seeing kind of the mirror image of themselves was really fascinating. And they're playing both roles. So... seeing Winston Duke and Lupita play their roles, I thought was crazy. The kids in this movie, oh my God, because, and we've talked about this off mic, there is nothing that will sink a film quicker than if the kid actors are shit. And so when I saw the kids, I was like, okay, I really hope you're good. The kid actors are just insanely good in this. Like, to a point where, I want to say, Evan Alex, he plays Jason. So I guess you call him his doppelganger, he has this mask on, but it's more of almost like a skin mask, kind of. Yeah. But he's like growling and crawling, and his sounds are so feral. And I don't know what it is about just that feral aspect of humanity. It really creeps me out. So whenever he was growling, I was like, all right, stop that right now. This makes me uncomfortable. But... yeah, I mean, if you want to talk about kind of the actors in this, like,
the other person that I was like super shocked by because I didn't know he was in this, because like obviously they put Elizabeth Moss in the trailer, and I love her because I loved Mad Men, and Peggy was my favorite character on Mad Men besides Joan.
I love, so I have a huge thing for Christine Hinds.
So does Aaron.
Yeah, as well he should.
And Joan didn't get the credit she deserved on that show.
Agreed.
But anyway, the other person is the guy that plays her husband, Tim Heidecker. And Aaron is the biggest fan of Tim and Eric Austin's
show. Is he really?
Yeah, he loves Tim
Okay,
and Eric.
so I'm happy you touched on that. So as I've mentioned on here before, like, I'll smoke weed quite often. I don't get Tim and Eric. I
don't get it either. I've never found it funny, but he thinks it's like the funniest show.
Really?
It's honestly, if you guys don't know what Tim and Eric is, it was like an early 2000s Adult Swim show that was like
Tim and Eric Awesome Show.
Yeah, Tim and Eric Awesome Show, and it's literally Tim Heidecker and Eric Warheim.
I think that's right, yeah.
They did like a weird sketch comedy thing, and the sketches are super weird, but like they got a lot of famous people to be on it, because Will Ferrell was on it, so was John C. Reilly.
He was Dr.
Steve Brule, that's where that came from.
You know what's funny is, like, I think Dr. Steve Brule, that show was funny, but I never thought Tim and Eric was funny.
Yeah, Tim and Eric's not my thing, but I gotta say, like, he in this, I was like, alright, well, we get to see him in a totally different capacity. He was so good. Like, he was funny, yeah. Like, his character was a little bit more of a, like, comic relief. But when they get to his, and I guess this is where we're like, it's a spoiler.
Full spoiler. So, okay, let me just pull back real quick. If you have not seen Us, seriously, go see it. Then come back. And just pause it at, like, that 11-minute mark. And then come back and listen to this. Because we're going full spoilers. Because for what I love about this movie, and there's a lot, we have to get into full spoilers. Sorry.
Yeah. Okay, anyway, so it turns out that it's not just the Wilson family that has doppelgangers, but it turns out everybody in the world has a doppelganger, which is probably the bigger twist in this. Because I was not expecting them to just, like, appear in that scene where they get butchered. But him playing his doppelganger with not being able to speak and just creepily, like, stalking Winston Duke's character was horrifying and so good. And I was like, good for you. Like, you are obviously a much better actor than Tim and Eric gives you credit for.
So what would be your doppelganger then?
My doppelganger. Alright, well, she'd have 0 tattoos and no fun-colored hair, and she would be super conservative.
Preppy, probably.
Probably preppy, and probably very religious.
Oh, God, that... I'm not gonna that last part. Yeah, that sounds bad.
Yeah, it's like... it would be weird. I know... I don't even know what it would be like to see my own doppelganger. Just be freaky.
Well, it reminds me of that episode of Buffy when Willow meets her doppelganger, and I was like,
oh yeah, Evil Willow.
Yeah, Evil Willow. Yeah, like 15-year-old me loved Evil Willow.
Well, then, to bring it back to Twilight Zone, he said he got like a lot of the inspiration for this came from the episode with the girl who
the mirror episode.
Yeah, the mirror episode where she keeps people keep seeing her doppelganger, but she isn't. So they keep having interactions with her that she doesn't remember. And she's, like, convinced that this doppelganger is trying to take over her life. And, I mean, that's kind of where this whole movie's plot comes in.
And do you want to jump into the plot here a little bit?
Sure. I mean, you get a lot of it from the trailer.
But not a lot. Like, it gave you just enough, but not enough to, like, spoil shit.
Yeah. So the beginning starts with, it actually starts in the 80s. With a young girl who does turn out to be a young Lupita Nyong'o's character, Adelaide. So it's her birthday. She's on the Santa Cruz boardwalk, and she's with her parents who are fighting and not really paying attention to her. She disappears and goes down the beach. Passing a guy with 1111
Jeremiah
on a sign, and that comes back many times.
Yes, it does.
And she ends up in like one of those fun houses with the mirrors that make it like impossible to figure out where you are. So she starts whistling, and then somebody starts whistling back at her because the power goes out, and it's dark in there. She backs up into a wall. You see her reflection behind her. She turns around. Her reflection doesn't, and then it cuts to now. So obviously she's had an experience with her doppelganger well before anything in the main portion of the movie happens.
Yeah.
So the rest of it is just of them going on their family vacation to a summer home, and they are going to be going to the Santa Cruz boardwalk, which she's extremely nervous about, obviously, understandably, because it shows that she has a lot of post-traumatic stress from whatever happened to her in that funhouse. So she's a very stressed out person. She's very nervous about her children, and when her son goes missing for a second. She completely freaks out.
Loses her shit.
Like, literally.
Like, but which, I'll be honest, like, when the movie gets into where she goes, you go, okay, I get why you would freak out about this. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, no, and I totally agree. Like, they do splice in some, like, flashbacks to show, like, the aftermath of what happened when she was in the, like, in the funhouse, and they do at one point show that her doppelganger turned around and they looked at each other, and the little girl that plays her is horrifying. So creepy. They did such a good job with casting her because she was so scary. But then it just, you know, like, it moves forward like any horror movie does. Like, it's just, like, gives you a little background on the characters and, like, what drives them. And then they end up in, you know, back at home. They're going to bed. She is extremely freaked out and wants to leave that second. Honestly, this is when I, like,
So I just gotta say real quick, interrupt you. Women's intuition is a thing. So when she goes, "We need to leave," I'm like, listen to her. You need to leave. And of course, you see, they see her doppelgangers. And I don't know why red is such a creepy color. It's my favorite color, ironically enough. But seeing them dressed in all red, I went, oh, red, blood. Oh shit, run right now. And I will say too. One thing about horror that always bugs me is when people make really dumb decisions, and it's just like, fuck, don't do that dumb shit. And especially black horror, I'm like, you just need to leave. So Winston Duke goes out with a bat, and they immediately call the cops. I went, thank you, okay.
They made some really smart choices in this, guys. Like, they did not do the classic, like, really stupid horror movie mistakes. Like, yeah, he yells at them, but when they start circling the house, he runs back in, he locks the door. Granted, since they're their doppelgangers, they know where the hide key is, so they don't even break in, they just unlock the door. Which,
I'm really happy you brought that up, because when they went the hide a key route, I went, yeah, they wouldn't know, because there's a doppelganger. Yeah. Okay, that actually makes sense. So, and then the movie just kind of evolves from that home invasion. So it's funny you bring up the strangers. I thought this was the best version of the strangers you could probably make, because it is part home invasion, part social commentary. I will say, for me, the social commentary aspect, I'm curious to get your thoughts on it, because Get Out is pretty... I don't want to say it's not paint by numbers at all, because it's a great fucking horror film, but it's a little easier to kind of get the message Jordan Peele's trying to get out from Get Out. I really had to kind of take a step back and honestly read some articles and what other people were saying about this. I think and I won't make this a whole anti-Trump thing, even though the Mueller report just came out, but there is definitely political commentary here. I like the way they brought up Hands Across America, which I thought was really random at first. But then at the end, when you see all of the evil versions of ourselves holding hands, it does point to the concept of, hey, have we done this have we done this to ourselves? You know, and the answer is, yeah, we honestly have. I mean, we've killed each other, we've devalued each other, and it's not preachy, but if you want to look for that, it's definitely there. I think there's more social commentary in this maybe than even Get Out, if you're willing to dig a little bit. I think my big, and it's not even a complaint, this is just me being a total goon, admittedly, but I think people almost want to take certain movies just at face value and don't want to think about it. I think this is something that will make you think, and if you delve in a little more, I think it rewards you a little more. Kind of your thoughts on that? Yeah,
so I feel like with Get Out, that it's a lot more of a, like you said, a little more obvious on what it's trying to get, a message it's getting across to you. And I also think that it is speaking of a situation that tends to really only affect Black individuals. So, like, where you said that Get Out was a lot scarier for you than it was for me, it's because I can't relate to certain aspects of that movie, which I think is fair, and I think that's the reason he made that movie.
Yeah.
With Us, I feel like it's not just talking about, like, struggles in the Black community, but I think it's also talking about struggles in everyone's community. Like, I feel like it's talking about, like, people as a whole and not just, like, one subset. With, you know, like, like you said, with everybody's like doppelgangers holding hands, like that's the point. Like everybody has like an evil version of themselves, and I feel like there are people, and I do genuinely think that for the most part people are good, but there are people who are letting their evil selves come to light and take over, and basically killing off their good selves, and that doesn't happen with everybody, but I think that's kind of like what this movie is showing, is that like you can't say that this isn't you, it is you. Yeah. It's just a different version of you.
I think it's interesting you bring up Get Out in the sense of, again, being a black man in this country, Get Out, I remember sitting there watching this and I went, I don't like this, I don't like this at all, because it's really making me very sad and scared, and just in general. Just a quick segue story because it makes me laugh. So when I was 16, I went to pick this girl up for a winter formal, and I'm in my black suit and white shirt, and I remember I go up to the door, and her dad tips me $20 because he thought I was there to drive the limo, and I remember this black kid going, "Oh man, this is fucking irritating," and almost double my lifetime later, it's like, oh, I still have shit like that happen to me. It's like, that's really quite a bummer. So even if you take something like Get Out and you plug in, like, women, the way that we devalue women, and we have, 17 magazine and Glamour and all the shit that is literally made to just beat women to the ground and then go, hey, you want to feel better about yourself? Buy our magazine. Like, you can really plug in any, I think, oppressed group, even if it's not just black people, plug that in, and Get Out still works. What I find interesting about this movie, though, is that it really does kind of take the spotlight and make you shine it inward a little bit and go, what are you doing that is either helping the problem of this divide? Because, I wasn't alive 50 years ago, but you could make a very good case. Our country's never been more divided than it is right now, and hasn't been in as much conflict as it is right now. You can blame that on technology and, such and such, but in the day, though, you take the red version of ourselves versus the, quote, normal version of ourselves, there's a lot of conflict just, whether you're Republican or Democrat, whether you're, minority, there are divides across so many different lines, and I think Jordan Peele was smart enough to realize that this won't play the same way as Get Out does. I think some people will knock this down a little bit because it's not Get Out, which is really unfair, by the way, to Jordan Peele, because he made a completely different movie, and I think you need to be in the right mindset to go ahead and actually think about it. I saw this on Friday. Friday? Yeah. I saw this Friday after work. When did you see this, by the way?
Thursday night.
You saw it? Oh, wow. You saw it Thursday. Okay.
Yeah, it was the only time I had time to see it, actually, because I was going to go Friday, and then I actually went and saw Aziz Ansari.
Oh, how was he, by the way?
He's amazing, and I sat in the front row, which was horrible because he totally called me out at one point. Like, he talks to his front row, and it's nerve-wracking when somebody that is super famous calls you out in front of a group of hundreds of people.
What did he say to you?
Oh, he was doing a whole thing about minorities and, like, white people, and so he asked me if I liked the movie Crazy Rich Asians, which I did. It's a good movie. Yeah. And he's just like, well, was it your favorite movie? And I was like, no. And he was like, well, why wasn't it your favorite movie? It had an all-Asian cast. It was a 97 on Rotten Tomatoes. And I was like, I don't know. I liked other movies better. And he was like, see, I'm making this white girl so nervous.
Oh, my God. That's
and he's like, yeah. And he made his point. And obviously, he wasn't, like, he was like, I'm just messing with you. Like, like, it's no big deal. But, like, he was, like, trying to make a point that, like, while most people now are, like, trying to actually be there for other races and minorities and the LGBTQ community. That word slipped my mind. There are people who are kind of treating it like, well, I am an ally, but they're doing it to like make themselves feel better. And so that was kind of why he was like talking about how people talked about how Crazy Rich Asians was the best movie, but they can't exactly say why they thought it was the best movie.
That's fair.
Or they give some bullshit excuse like, well, it was really nice for my Asian friends because they got to see themselves represented. And, like, that's a bullshit answer on why you like the movie.
Yeah, like, give me an actual reason why you like the movie.
Yeah, and so that was what he was trying to prove. And, like, he was, and he was honestly, like, for a comedian, he did have a lot of social commentary, because he also talked about, like, the divided nation, but he said that he thinks there's 3 groups. There's the extremely loud, very intense Trump supporters, and he's like, I'm not talking Republicans, I mean the people that are, like, Hillary's in charge of ISIS people. And then he says that there's the other people who are the exact opposite. They're the, like, super ultra liberals, like the ones that most people don't even fall into, that they do, like, crazy liberal shit. And then he said that then there's the rest of the world who's kind of just, like, watching them. He referred to it as Biggie and Tupac, and the rest of the world as Boys to Men.
Okay, I love that, actually.
Yeah, it was really good.
I mean, so do you fall in with Boys and Men?
Yes, yes, I have some left leanings, and I'm obviously not a Trump supporter, but I also am not, like, the most left leaning person where I, like, can't think for myself, which I think that both of those groups fall into. Like, I don't think it matters what side of it you're on. You kind of just, like, fall into this, like, well, the rest of these people think that, so I also think that.
Well, so spoiler here. I'm going to go see this movie, Unplanned, which is it's from the same people who made God's Not Dead, if that tells you anything. So I'm going to see this. I'm seeing it Thursday night because I refuse to pay for me and my girlfriend to see it because I know I'm going to be upset, and I just go, there's no part of me that wants to pay for this movie twice. But I know we're getting off of us here, but bear with us here for a second. But I watched the main actress on Fox News, shocker, the other day, and she was talking about how we're not here to judge people that have had abortions. It's about justice and mercy. And I went, I will take bullshit for 1,000, Alex. There's no way that you guys aren't going to put some really horrible Christian slant on this shit. So I'm going to see it Thursday night. I don't even know if I'm going to review it. I might do a written review on that because I don't even know if it's worth using my voice. But but just throwing it out there very quickly, if you're one of those people who has a picket sign with a dead baby on it when a 16-year-old girl goes to an abortion clinic and you go, you're fucking wrong, you're going to burn. Fuck off kindly. If you're listening to this podcast, turn it off. I don't even want your reviews or listens because you're part of the problem. And Allie's laughing at it right now. I don't really care because if those people are listening to this, I don't want you listening.
I think that's fair. I also don't want them listening to this.
At all, because you're I mean, first off, it's a women's issue. Oh, okay, I know I'm going off 3 minutes, but it's a women's issue, one. There shouldn't be a bunch of dudes voting on it, 2, and 3, the fact that we as a country have churches that go, hey, we're always here for you and everything, but oh, you're pregnant at 16, slut. Oh, you want an abortion at 16? Double slut. Oh, but you let lust get into your heart? Well, you're not reading your Bible. Fuck off. Oh, but you can't masturbate. Triple fuck off. Yeah, sorry.
I have a lot of feelings on it too, but we will get it. This is not the time.
Yeah,
so.
Fair enough. Fair enough. But one thing I will say that worked better about this, about us than Get Out. There's more action in this. I mean, there's that one scene where, of course, he figures out, oh shit, I need to get out of here. Winston Duke and Tim Heidecker have a pretty good action scene on a boat, which shocked the shit out of me. I was like, oh, this is really well shot, and I totally made this comment in theater. I'll say it out here too. I went and saw it with OJ, who of course features on here too. But I whispered over him. He has a flare gun that he shoots at Tim Heidecker's character. I went, God, for a black guy, you think you'd be able to aim a gun a little better? but he totally misses him. But at least this really cool action scene on a boat. Go figure. The teenage girl who's in this, that's Zora. So her doppelganger probably creeped me out the most because she's smiling, but it's like that Wicked Witch of the West smile. It's a very
no light in the eyes.
Yeah, it's a very creepy smile, and there's a point where she runs up on the Wilson's car, and I went, I don't like this at all. I'm like, you need to stop this right now. You're freaking me out. And she's going to be something. I really hope she gets more acting roles, because I think if she can do this good in this, I think she'll do great in whatever that she's actually put in. Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, no, you're fine. I really feel like they do a lot with everybody had to basically play two people, and two extremely different people. So I feel like it really showed everybody's acting range, because they had to not only be the character that they were in the normal world, but they had to be their tethered, as they're called in the movie, which is basically like a soulless human. Like, they're maniacal and evil. There is no, like... None of them really seem good, except for, of course, if we're gonna get to the big twist at the end.
We're full of spoilers at this point. So I will say, the movie is great. The movie is great the whole way through, and then you get to this part where, oh my god, I'm gonna ask you to pronounce the black name for Nipita. Can you do that?
Oh, Adelaide?
Thank you. That's why you're here. Just lost my black card, but her red. First off, there's her version, her red character. When she says "be careful," instant goosebumps. I went, I don't like this at all. And there's a point where her red is shoving her down into this like glass table, and the glass is cracking. And I was like, okay, fuck, please stop doing that. So Santa Cruz, by the way, this movie pretty much goes, don't ever visit Santa Cruz as long as you...
Yeah, they made that boardwalk super creepy.
Like, I was in Santa Cruz 2 years ago. I went, I don't ever want to go to Santa Cruz again.
Yeah, like, I'm never going to go into a fun house with mirrors either.
I've gone to a carnival twice. Quick story here. So I was 3, and this is why I hate clowns and I refuse to watch it. I was 3, and I was talking, and like my mom's holding me, and I turn around, and I remember this clown is about a foot away from me, goes, do you want some popcorn? I remember crying, going, ah! So to this day, clowns freak me the fuck out. The second time I went, I was like 15. I remember ending up in the funhouse for some reason. I remember seeing all these mirrors, and I went, I don't like this at all. This is really freaking me out. So when you do see the funhouse mirror scene, first off, it's creepy, because just seeing that many reflections of yourself, which if you want to dive in spiritually, you obviously could. That's really creepy, 1. And then 2, when the little girl reaches through Lupita's young self and reaches through and grabs her by the throat, I went, yep, fuck this, don't like this at all.
No. Plus, I don't know what they did with the lighting in that scene, but the first time they show her doppelganger as a little girl turn around, there was something with the way that they did the lighting that made her look like she had monster teeth and black eyes, and it was horrifying, and that was scarier than anything in this whole movie for me. I was like, Jesus Christ, that thing is creepy.
The initial home invasion, because I'll admit, like we were talking about The Strangers earlier, The Strangers is a very creepy movie. Any home invasion, it's, what am I thinking of? Last House on the Left? So, I'll be honest, guys, if you've never seen Last House on the Left, I think the original is great. I think the remake is actually really well done, too. So, rape is a thing in movies that it obviously really makes me uncomfortable. Whenever I see it, I'm just like, fuck, okay. I think the best thing that's handled it as far as rape in a show or movie is Jessica Jones. I think that's actually been one of the better things that's done a great job of saying, hey, yes, this is fucking horrible, but you can overcome it. But Last House on the Left, I want these invaders to get killed in the most brutal ways for what they fucking did.
Yeah.
And the feeling of dread and just horror with that film is very similar to The Strangers for me. I freak out when I think about someone just even breaking into my home. It's like, oh, okay, I don't like this at all. That's actually probably the most effective part of this movie, when the people in red actually break into the house, and you have you have Jason, I was going to say playing for himself, phrasing, but when he's talking to his red self and they're in the closet and they're playing with fire, I went, yeah, I don't like any of this. And when Jason takes off his mask, the red version of him, and you see the burn marks on his face. First off, great Freddy Krueger reference, because I feel like that was a direct call out to Nightmare on Elm Street. But when they're playing for fire, when Jason's playing with fire and the red version himself is playing with the matches, and you're just sitting there, and I went, something has to break here. Something has to give. It is really freaking me out.
There are so many moments in that movie where I'm just like, okay, come on, guys, get in the car, get in the car, get in the car, get in the car.
No, I was begging for them to run the whole fucking movie. Like, please just get out of this fucking death trap, which is ironically what it turns out to be. So Zora, she's a track star, and the evil version of herself has her hair down. And yeah, just has this smile the whole time. What's that YouTube? What's that meme that's going on right now? Like the weird, like...
Oh, Momo.
Yeah. She actually looks like a little bit. I was like, oh, this is weird.
Big eyes and a very creepy smile.
Yeah, the red version of her does look like that. And so, Zora's a track star, and she goes, run. And gives her just enough time to run, but not enough time that I'll let you get away, but enough time that I'll stalk you and really fuck with your mind. This is a completely random reference, but I'm pulling from it. I love Weird Al Yankovic's Running with Scissors, and anytime I saw scissors in this, I went, these aren't happy at all. These are making me...
No.
These are... So, even cutting myself with scissors, I realized how bad that sounded, but accidentally... Alex looked at me like, whoa, Hunter,
right,
like, oh, we're getting into this, but accidentally... cutting myself with scissors. The gold shears, I thought were really powerful, just artistic look to how the scissors looked. Of course, you can draw just a very easy parallel of, hey, you have one version of yourself, you have another version of yourself. I love the brown glove because they remind me of clearly Nightmare on Elm Street. I went, okay. There's some good horror homages there, and I feel like I'm missing some because, again, I'm not the horror buff that you are.
Even I feel like I'm probably missing some because...
Were there other ones that you were just seeing?
No, not really, and I'm sure there are some that I, went over my head. Obviously, there's the part in the beginning when they show two tapes, but I don't think that they Chud isn't referenced in this. It's just a movie he liked.
So tell me about Chud, because I hadn't even heard of it till you brought it up. I was like, what is this?
It's just it's like a sci-fi horror movie about mutants that are living under the city of New York that come up. So it is somewhat referenced because when this movie opens, he talks about how there are millions of miles of tunnels under the United States that aren't being used. That they used to be subway tunnels or mine shafts, and that is brought in later when you see that that's where all the tethered came from. They were in some sort of facility underneath the rest of the world and just grew up there eating poor bunnies raw.
Which, oh my god, those bunnies were so cute, and then just think about them being eaten. I was like,
know.
Fuck, okay, poor Thumper.
So sad. That is I guess a pretty big reference to Chud in the sense that they're not mutants, they're yourself but without a soul, I guess.
Yeah.
And they come up and they take over. That's a pretty big one.
So. The Hands Across America thing, like I said, I think it's just very fascinating that so many people can align in something that they think is right, but may not be right to the other side, which I thought was a very interesting concept. So I'm going to say something controversial, shocking on here, but seeing the Thriller shirt that young Peele was wearing, I will say this, and again, gonna make people upset, but that's fine. I watched Leaving Neverland. It's I will say it's not a good look to put it mildly.
It was made before that documentary came out because Aaron and I had the same reaction. We were like,
yeah.
And then I was like, well, it did come out before, and also at this point in time in 1986, he was still a cultural icon because Thriller had like just come out.
Yeah.
So I get why he would do it.
Yeah, and I think what's an interesting concept is what part of Michael do you draw from? I mean that is. And I'll be honest, I'm not a huge Michael Jackson fan. I would rather listen to the Temptations than Michael Jackson, but that's just me. The interesting question is, do you take that side of Michael that potentially, and again, he was acquitted, just throwing that out there, but that potential side of, his Red, basically, this monster version of himself, or do you take the other side of himself where he was just such a brilliant musician? I mean, that alone is a very interesting dialogue that you can have. I'm not a huge Michael Jackson fan, but the songs I do love of his, I really love of his.
Well, I mean, he was like a literal cultural icon. Like, you never, even if he, like, all of that turned out to be true, regardless, you can't really take that away from him. He's still like added to the cultural zeitgeist and stuff. But I think it works in this sense if you think about the time frame that scene takes place in, and like what you just said, like the parallels that he himself has to the themes of this movie. Yeah,
I'm sure Jordan Peele saw that and then heard about Finding Neverland. He was like, "Fuck." Okay, like,
too late now.
Yeah, like, we're in post, fucking my life. But so getting to the big reveal, so you find out that fucking again, I'm gonna refer to you. Thank you. You find out that she's been a Red the whole time, and I will say that was a mind fuck of a moment for me. I was like, I would say, like, in the theater, I went, "Oh, you bitch!" Like, you got me. Like, I did. It was one of those things that.
I'm the opposite. I figured it out.
Did you?
I figured it out so fast.
Did you?
Yeah.
So humor me. What led to you figuring it out?
So there were a couple things. The biggest thing for me actually was the scene before the family even shows up in the driveway, where she has her back to Winston Duke, and he's like trying to get her to like turn around because he's trying to be all sexy because he wants to get something going. He was hilarious. I love him.
Yeah.
Anyway. She's standing there, and just her body language, I was like, man, she's really fucking creeping me out. And she turns around, and she doesn't even really truly look like herself, and she's not really coming across as truly human in that scene. And I was like, ooh, maybe she already got switched. And then when it turned out that her Red was the only one that could truly talk, so she has like a very raspy voice that sounds like it probably hasn't spoken words in 30 years.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, that's what they all sound like, but none of the other Reds can talk at all. They just make guttural, feral noises. I was like, why is she the only one that can talk? I'm pretty sure that she got switched. So I leaned over to Aaron and I said, I bet you it's going to turn out that she's actually the human one and that they switched when they were kids, and that's what it turned out. And I've talked to other people who I see both sides. There were people who were like, I totally didn't see it coming, and then there are other people who are like me who were like, no, I totally thought that was coming. And I think that, like, either way, I think it was super successful because, like, going back in and knowing the twist, there's probably way more references to the fact that she is a Red the whole time. Like, she becomes very brutal very quickly. True. She leans into killing way faster than the rest of them do.
Yeah, and it's funny you bring that up. I think and I honestly, I dismiss that to the whole survival instinct aspect, which is a really cool trick the movie kind of plays on you, because you go, oh, if people are trying to kill you, on instinct you try to kill them first. But even thinking about the movie, I was like, well, okay. So even the fact that she's eating, that her original, or her Red in theory, would have been eating rabbits, but then when the switch happens, she's eating just strawberries on the beach. I went, that's interesting. And I was like, huh, alright. And even just that little twist, I went, motherfucker, Jordan Peele, bravo, sir. Like, you got me there. As far as a complaint about the movie, because I'll admit, it's hard to even think of one. I think you're just not going to know what the fuck is happening for the first 25 minutes. And I think some people just won't be okay with that. but I was like, all right, you're giving me breadcrumbs to get to where I need to go. But I definitely did talk to some people who went, well, I thought this was going to be more intense or whatever. It does get there. When Tim Heidecker and Elizabeth Moss, when their characters and their daughters, when they get fucking slaughtered, it is a brutal scene.
That scene I felt like was more of a twist, for me at least, than Lupita's character turning out to be like a red the whole time.
Okay.
Was because I was expecting when they cut away to them, because they were obviously, Winston Duke had already killed his double.
Yeah.
And
in a great way, by the way.
Oh my god, the boat motor, man! What a brutal way to die.
I mean, to cut someone in half. I mean, he got Dewey Cox. He got cut in half. Yeah.
It was brutal. So they are in the car and they're driving away, and I was like, okay, like I think, and then they cut to Tim Heidecker and Elizabeth Moss's characters, and I was like, okay, so what I think is going to happen is one of two things. Either they're going to show up covered in blood and like, please help us, or their doppelgangers are going to show up, pretend to be them, and then kill them. So when it turned out that they had their own doppelgangers that killed them, I was like, what the fuck?
No, and I can't express enough. When they pop up, it is from nowhere.
Literal nowhere.
Like the camera pans right and then pans back and they're there. And you're like, oh shit! And then scissors through the neck. You're like, oh my god, okay, shit. And I think the last scene between Lupita and her doppelganger is an amazing scene. And one thing I'll give this movie over Get Out, the use of the score and the music is amazing here. Like it is masterclass level shit.
Every song had a specific reason, because in the scene with that we were just talking about with Kitty and what is Jason? What is it? Is that his name? His character's name?
Are you talking about the
Josh? It's Kitty and Josh.
Yeah.
So when they get killed, they have basically it's an Amazon Echo, but they can't call it Alexa, they call it Ophelia, but it's an obvious reference to it.
Oh yeah.
She says, Alexa, call the police, and instead they play Fuck the Police, which is a joke about how Alexa can't hear you very well. I've worked with Amazon Echoes, and it's true, sometimes she really just can't understand what you're saying.
Yeah.
But I also think that there was an obvious reference to the fact that the police never came when they called them the first time, and the police were never going to come in this.
Yeah, it's funny you bring that up, and I love how insightful you are. But I love the fact of that. I mean, J. Cole says that how it's a proven statistic that police will show up in white neighborhoods quicker than black neighborhoods, and I did find that interesting that they said the cops are 14 minutes away and the cops never show up. And I went, wow. That's subtle, but if you want to look for it, that's a very obvious reference that, hey, this is a problem. And I went, fuck, okay. Like Jordan Peele, you get me. The last thing I want to point out is Jeremiah 11:11, which when I heard, and again, this is growing up in church, I remember enough of the verse I could kind of piece together what he was saying. But the verse from the King James Version is, therefore thus saith the Lord, behold, I will bring evil upon them, what they shall not be able to escape. And though they shall cry unto me, I will not leave hearken unto them. If I thought that was that verse, I went, ugh, that's dark and creepy. Fuck. All right. I mean, as far as complaints, I thought Winston Duke's character at the beginning, I think he kind of had to evolve into what the film needed, if that makes sense. And again, you're just not going to know what the fuck is going on for parts of it. And as someone who likes to be able to try to piece things together, it was like, okay, I just have to be okay with this not working. I did love that Winston Duke's character that he used a baseball bat. I mean, that's straight out of The Shining with Wendy. There's so much here to love. There really is, and I kind of get irritated with people going, "Hey, Jordan Peele, he's the next Hitchcock." No, he's the first Jordan Peele, and the fact that he's been able to make two great movies out the gate. that makes me feel very comfortable for Twilight Zone,
Yeah,
because the last time they tried Twilight Zone with Forest Whitaker, it really just didn't work.
No.
You know, I wanted it to work so badly, and it didn't. This makes me feel like, okay, Jordan Peele gets the gravity of what he's taking over, and he understands that he needs to, if you heard a random sound, it's my girlfriend dropping something. But overall, though, I mean, this worked so much better than it had any right to. I can't quite give it a fan-fucking-tastic, which is our highest. I'm gonna fall right with an A+ on it. Like, it's right, it's so close, and I could rewatch it once it comes out on 4K, because I will be buying this in 4K, and maybe get a fan-fucking-tastic, but for now, I'm gonna stick with my A+. So, yeah, A+ for me. Allie, your final thoughts and grade.
So even though I am like the biggest horror person, I'm actually going to give it an A-, and
Okay.
I have my one reason for this, and it's the only thing I didn't think was successful in this film. When at the very final confrontation scene, when Lupita is talking, the two characters are talking to each other, she gives a very half-ass explanation as to who the tethered were.
Okay.
And I feel like that explanation was not needed. I feel like the movie would have been more successful if you never knew where they were coming from, except for from some facility. They didn't need to explain who they were, because with the explanation we got, it left way too many questions. Like, I'm okay with having questions at the end of a film, but she says that they were originally created by somebody they found out a way to basically clone a human, and it was exactly the same except for no soul, and they were going to use them to control humans, but then it didn't work, so they just abandoned them. But that leaves too many questions for me on, like, okay, who were those people, and what way were they going to control them? Why would they just not kill you all if they were going to leave hundreds of millions of people under the world? So I think it would have been more successful if she just said that they were clones of them and left it at that. That's my only problem with the film. But other than that, I think that everything else was really well done. It's terrifying. It's a great movie. I will definitely buy it. I will definitely see it again. I just wish that they had just left that little part out.
That's fair. That's an interesting point. I've got 5 on it, so I actually have it on my my work playlist now. Like, it's been stuck in my head. I'm like, fuck, I do love that song.
And it's throughout the entire movie, guys. Like, even in the dance sequence, they play a classical version of "I've Got 5 on It." It is the running theme of the whole movie.
Yeah, I mean, what I will say, you know, I mean, and we've talked music, we've talked film, the sophomore slump is definitely a term for a reason, and this could have fallen apart about 8 different ways. So the fact that this was still as great as it was, I give Jordan Peele an insane amount of credit. I guess he's producing the Candyman remake, I want to say, which
I'm cool with. I loved Candyman. Honestly, that's an underrated 90s horror film. It's actually based on a Clive Barker story, though, and that's why it's as successful as it is.
Okay. I mean, if Jordan Peele, he's fallen to that category for me where if I hear he's attached to something, I go, oh, okay, I'm going to have to check it out now because he's attached.
He's going to be in Toy Story 4.
He is. Him and Key.
Yeah, they're going back to their comedy roots, which I think will be really fun.
I will say I'm not super stoked for Toy Story 4 because I thought the third one was such a good way to just end it.
It was a perfect ending, and I'll go see it, Toy Story 4, because I love Pixar, and I want to believe that it's going to be good, but I agree with you. There's some, like, I'm like, oh, why are you guys, like... Why are you messing with a good thing? You had it perfectly ended.
I totally agree. But I mean, guys, thank you so much. I mean, if you haven't seen us, you really do need to see this. And this was the third highest opening for a horror film ever?
Yeah,
70 mil?
Yeah, it already made 70 mil, and it made on Thursday night it had already made $7.4 million, and that's for a limited release because it doesn't technically open until the next day, so that's insane. And there were tons of people in my theater and tons of people going to see it. So if you haven't, you should. It's great.
So I will say, just as we kind of wrap up, we got a couple extra minutes here. It was really funny to me. The budget on this was 20 mil. So this is already beyond the success of what they were expecting. And say what you will about Blumhouse, man, they keep making great films that are profitable, and I'm really happy for Jordan Peele. I was sitting next, me and OJ were sitting next to this couple, and the girlfriend was, or wife, whichever, was really funny because they showed the trailer for Dark Phoenix, and she was like, yeah, alright, whatever. And then the trailer for Endgame came out, she was like, oh my god, it looks so good! I was like, oh, they're the same company now. But, yeah, go see this, though. I really do think if people aren't expecting Get Out Part 2, then I think you'll like this more. If you're expecting something very similar to Get Out, I think you might be disappointed because this is definitely a different film from Get Out. But I enjoyed the hell out of this. So, oh yeah, we need to talk about the fact that you have amazing baked goods that I'm gonna. I don't know what I'm gonna have you bake. Maybe a pie, because that apple pie you made on Instagram looked like I was actually kind of mad. I was like, oh no offer for me, whatever. But yeah, you have an Instagram for that.
Yes, I've talked about it before, but my Instagram is Bonbon Cure, which is, Bonbon is obvious, but Cure is Cuire. It's French for candy baker. That's what it means.
Is that what it means?
Yeah. It's
real nice.
But yeah, anyway, check it out. I do all sorts of stuff. My main thing is French macarons, but
which are amazing.
I can basically bake whatever you want, and I have the ability to ship, so let me know.
Boom.
Hit me up.
There you go. And yeah, so we will have you on for Twilight Zone, which, okay, I will make you this prompt. I will watch the trailer for It Chapter 2. I refuse to watch the first fucking movie because, again, clowns are just like my kryptonite. I will watch the trailer and we will talk about it at some point.
That's fine. I mean, I definitely would not recommend going to see Part 2 without seeing Part 1, though, because Part 2, they're supposed to be following the book a lot closer, and it's going to get super freaking weird, and everyone's going to hate it, but I will love it.
So let me give you a forum here. So why do you think people are going to hate it, but you're going to love it?
So, the end of it's my favorite book of all time. I read it like once a year. I've read it like probably 20 times. But it's a very meta reference where instead of actually having a physical battle with the entity that is it's technically like an alien. They have a mind battle, and they meet the turtle, who is the guardian of their nexus point for their universe, but the turtle can't help them, but he gives them hints on how they're supposed to defeat this entity, and they use a ritual of chud. It's super weird. They have to just like keep... It's so weird. The ritual of chud basically is like an Indian ritual where they are hurting each other, and then they're telling jokes, and the first person to laugh loses. It sounds so weird. I don't know how they're going to do this, but... what is his name? The guy who directed it. He said that they're following the book a lot closer. I just don't think that people are going to get it because it's referenced so much more in the book, and it makes a lot more sense in the book. But when they're going to do this in the movie, people are going to be... I don't think they're going to be as happy with an ending unless they were like... It's fine. I'm excited about it because I'm going to be like, yay, book ending! But we'll see.
Alright, well, now I'm very curious. I'm not going to lie. So I remember I saw the original It with Tim Curry, and again, Tim Curry scared the shit out of me in that. His still best role is Muppet Treasure Island. I don't care what anybody says, but
sorry about that for you.
But I remember seeing the original and that scaring the shit out of me. Again, is it Steven Skarsgård or no? It's
Bill Skarsgård.
Bill Skarsgård. Thank you. Pardon me. Even showing him on Kimmel doing the Pennywise smile, I went, that is eerie. I don't want to see this at all.
I have my own feelings about Pennywise because I like the TV miniseries. It's not very close to the book, and I actually think that the 2017 movie is better in being more faithful to not necessarily like at least the themes of the book, but I prefer Tim Curry's Pennywise because Pennywise is not just supposed to be a terrifying monstrosity. He's supposed to use the clown as a way to lure children closer to him. And I kept saying that they made Bill Skarsgård too scary. Whereas Tim Curry plays that line between being like terrifying and charming, and he makes so many ridiculous jokes in that movie, and it's great. He's amazing. But I don't think that if Bill Skarsgård had tried to do what Tim Curry did, it would have worked at all. So I think it's fine that he did it the way he did it.
So I remember the one scene I did see was when Pennywise is coming through the projector or whatever. I was like, cool, I'm never watching the full movie. So I was like, alright, that's all I need to see, because our coworker, Mauricio Dick, he sent me a gif of that, and I was like, awesome, I'll never watch this movie. Like, I was pretty content in the fact that I would never watch it, but after seeing that, I went, yep, absolutely not.
Yeah.
Fuck, goddamn Bill Skarsgård. But guys, thank you so much for listening. You can check us out on Facebook at The Real Pineapple. You can check us out on, let me think of all the forums. Okay, iTunes, SoundCloud, Google Podcasts, Spotify, and Podbean at The Real Pineapple. This week, there's a review. We'll have a review up for Dumbo, which actually looks cute, because if you've seen an elephant sneeze, it's adorable. And then Unplanned, which, God, I don't want to talk about that. Like, oh God, I hope I'm the only person in the theater Thursday night. Like, I can just yell at the screen like a lot of black people do and just be upset.
I hope you are too.
Thank you. I appreciate that, because I don't want that movie to make any fucking money. If it tells you anything, Glenn Beck loved it. So
Yeah, because I trust his authority on anything.
Yeah, so why would it be bad? Glenn Beck would never lie to you. And then we'll have a review up this weekend for Batman: Mask of the Phantasm, because it's Batman's 80th birthday. So we will be reviewing the best Batman film ever made. Hunter, what about Dark Knight? Nope, this is better, and I will tell you why. But guys, yeah, I can already hear the comments. But guys, thank you so much for listening. We'll talk to you soon.